Boxing Truth here, back with another video. Make sure to smash that like button, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Alright, we got to talk about Jermell Charlo, and what's really the more interesting question following his best victory to date over Brian Castano, a 10th round stoppage, now becoming undisputed junior middleweight champion. And what was his best victory to date against the best opponent he's defeated without controversy? And it was a great victory. He deserves props, showed heart. It's just messed up how the PBC treated Brian Castano, even though it's one of their fighters. You know, hopefully Heyman gave him a retirement package, considering he really had no chance in winning this fight. Took the fight and really had no chance of winning unless he knocked Charlo out. Of course, the judging was not accurate. They were definitely paid off. You can definitely tell when the scorecards are rigged just by how the way they're scored. And the cards for Brian Castano Charlo in the rematch were predetermined. Let's just put it that way. The judges didn't even bother watching the fight. But luckily, and I'm glad Charlo just ended it without controversy, though it was kind of weird how the knockout occurred, but I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to give Charlo his props. He beat a quality fighter, but, you know, there's still fuckery going on in PBC. But let's talk about Charlo's next move, which is going to be very interesting. He's in a position where he's undisputed champion. It's not similar to other fighters' position. You know, Shakur Stevenson, he's a unified champion, but the other champions are unknown in his division, so they're not attractive fights. Charlo, on the other hand, he actually has all the belts, but he has attractive, dangerous contenders in his division. Two of them that come to mind down the Showtime side. That would be very interesting fights if they were made. And you have to wonder, is Charlo going to take these fights? Or is he going to fight at least one of them? Is Tszyu going to be next? It's a very interesting fight. Dangerous contender. Some will argue he's too green. He's not ready. But, you know, it's still a dangerous fight against a confident, undefeated guy who's steadily improved over his last few fights, and he's knocking on the door. He's mandatory for the WBO strap, and he wants his shot. But you have to wonder, I mean, is Charlo gonna take that fight? Is he gonna move up to middleweight as he suggested? The question is, if he does move up to middleweight, who's he gonna fight? There are attractive opponents, but, you know, are they makeable? Are they actually realistic? There are makeable fights in his division. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Charlo Fundora? Charlo versus Tszyu is lit. I mean, those are easy fights to make. They're all within the same side, and they're attractive fights, and they're dangerous fights for Charlo. Those are fights he could definitely win, but there's also fights he could definitely lose. You know, Fundora can step to him and beat him up. Only he'll be a taller, more physical version of Brian Castano, and he was having trouble with that. So you can only imagine what Fundora could do. Of course, the power of Charlo could turn around late, like it did in the second Castano fight. Tszyu, another quality contender, dangerous contender, undefeated, has been stopping guys. He had his tryout against what's his name, Tara Gashah. Had a little blooper getting dropped by him, but picked himself back up and dominated the fight the rest of the way. So overall, he passed the test, and he's knocking on the door and watches his opportunity. But of course, if there's another opportunity out there for Jermell Charlo, a bigger opportunity, then he should definitely take it over these two guys, because even though they're attractive fights, they're dangerous fights that he could lose, and they're not the biggest option out there. Well, the biggest potential option out there. So, what's Jermell Charlo's next move going to be? Let me anticipate what he's going to do here. I know he doesn't want to fight Fundora. Let's just be real about that. I mean, he would rather not fight Fundora. I mean, it's a 50-50 fight. He has the power to knock him out, but Fundora has the power to hurt him and walk him down and beat him up and give him the type of beating that he gave Lubin. So it's a very dangerous fight. A fight I would very like to see, but I'm not holding my breath that it's gonna happen. The Tszyu fight might happen. It might happen if there's no other bigger option on the table. The Tszyu fight, he could definitely win. There may be questions about the Tszyu's defense and his whiskers following the fight, the knockdown with Gachet. So maybe they'll be, if there's no other bigger option on the table, they'll be interested in doing that fight since it is an attractive fight. Tszyu has been on American Airways. People do know who he is, so it will definitely be a significant junior middleweight prize fight. But who is Charlo gonna fight if he doesn't fight those guys? If he does move up to middleweight, I don't see him fighting Terrence Crawford next. I mean, unless Spence, for whatever reason, Spence and Crawford don't come to terms for the end of this year. But that's just something that is possible. Maybe that's something that could happen. It'd be a huge letdown, but it's boxing. But if Crawford's not available, who at middleweight is available for Jermell? They're not gonna fight him because Heyman is not gonna. He's not gonna let Jermell go to the zone, and they hate Eddie Hearn. So that fight's not gonna happen unless Melz tells Heyman that he'll do it on the zone. And Heyman, when it comes to this, it has to be his way or the highway. Otherwise, the fight's not gonna happen. Meaning that Golovkin has to go to Showtime, but he's contracted to the zone, so he can't do that. The biggest fight for both of these guys would be of them to fight each other, but that would never happen. I mean, they should definitely consider it. I mean, it's not like they never fought each other before. I mean, they're brothers. I fought my brother plenty of times. What's the big deal? I would fight my brother for money. I don't give a fuck. But, I get it. It's a family thing. So, but it would be the biggest fight in their careers, though. They fought each other. Munguia is a very attractive fight, but this is the zone network problem. That fight's not gonna happen. Chris Eubank, he definitely needs an opponent. He would definitely be an option, a doable fight. This will be maybe a feeler out fight at middleweight for Charlo. The thing is, there's not many attractive options at middleweight for Charlo to move up because the fights are not realistic against the bigger names like Golovkin or Munguia. The PBC opponents involved are not the biggest names. He's never going to fight his brother, even though Jermell has said he would consider it when it comes, if it depends on the money. Adames is not a big name in a tricky fight. So I think the best move for Jermell is to stay at 54 and fight the most attractive contender there. To me, it's Fundora, but it's a very dangerous fight. So if he's going to fight another contender there, I would say he goes after Tszyu because it's a winnable fight, but there's still danger there because Tszyu is a hungry young fighter in his prime, and he's definitely feeling very confident that he can pull it off in America. I mean, it's the son of Casa Tszyu. Wouldn't count him out in that one, especially against a Charlo who's been outboxed, outpointed, and was losing to Castano again prior to the stoppage. I had Castano ahead 6 rounds to 3. You could argue 5-4. But, Charlo is a beatable champion with heart and power, but he's always in the fight because of his punching power and because of his heart. So He's definitely a beatable champion, but always dangerous throughout, as he showed in the second fight with Castano, in both fights with Castano. He's carrying his power late, so it's definitely it's 50-50 with any of these guys. Fundora, Tszyu, Tszyu. So we'll see, man. It's gonna be interesting the move that he pursues here. I think the right move is to stay at 54 for at least one defense against one of those guys until a more attractive opponent comes out of the woods, either at middleweight or maybe a welterweight moves up to fight him. Maybe the winner of Spence Crawford. Those are his biggest fights out there right now. I mean, when it comes to the near future. So it's gonna be interesting to see what he does, man. He could be done at 54. He could move up, but there's not really many attractive options here or realistic options. So to me, I think the play is to stay at 54, maybe wait to see if Crawford wins, and then try to pursue that fight before maybe eventually taking that move to middleweight, the longer way to move to middleweight. Yeah, let me know what y'all think, your thoughts. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.